Have you ever had that moment? You look in the mirror, maybe after some big life change, and you see yourself, but it doesn't quite feel like you.
Yeah, it's a strange, almost disorienting feeling.
Exactly. And that's precisely what happened to someone named Adrienne. She'd been on this journey, a significant body transformation, losing weight successfully using semaglutide.
Right. And, by all external measures, things were going great. Her knees felt better, clothes fit differently. Everything seemed positive.
Totally. But then one morning, just a normal morning, brushing her teeth, she looked up, saw her reflection. Her face was thinner, yes, lines sharper.
It was her, technically. But she later told this expert we're discussing, Dan Hollis, that she felt like she didn't quite belong to her.
Such a powerful phrase, a profound disconnect.
Hmm.
It wasn't triumph she felt in that moment, but she actually described it as a kind of disappearance.
Mm-hmm. And that feeling, that toothpaste moment, as she called it, that's really our jumping off point today.
It is. So this deep dive, it goes way beyond just the numbers on the scale. We're exploring those often really unexpected psychological shifts, the identity changes that can happen when your body changes, maybe faster than your mind can keep up.
And our guide for this is Dan Hollis. He's an expert who really gets this complex dance between our biology and, well, who we fundamentally think we are.
So our mission here is to unpack Dan Hollis's framework, his way of navigating these tricky internal waters when the outside changes so dramatically.
Because, as he points out, for a lot of people, the real struggle, the real crisis, isn't always losing the weight. It's in the moments after.
Okay, let's circle back to Adrienne and that toothpaste moment. It's so vivid. She'd achieved this goal right, significant weight loss. Physically, she's feeling better.
Less pain, clothes fitting, the external wins were there.
But looking in the mirror wasn't a celebration. It felt like a loss, a disappearance. Like part of her was just gone.
And this really tees up Dan Hollis's core concept here, which he calls identity lag.
Identity lag, okay.
Yeah. He puts it like this. Your body can change faster than your story, and when that happens, the soul gets confused.
Wow. Okay, unpack that a
Oh.
bit. It's not just missing the weight itself.
No, not usually. It's more about mourning the version of herself who had carried them. The old self.
The one who knew how to operate in the world
Yeah,
in that body.
exactly. Maybe the one who used humor in a certain way, or, like he mentions, relied on specific clothes, specific sweaters, almost like armor.
Right. So she was good at being that previous version of herself. She knew the rules, the strategies.
She had a map for that existence. But the new body, the new physical reality, it left her mind feeling kind of mapeless, lost.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Hmm.
How do we actually adapt emotionally, mentally, when our physical selves change so quickly? It's this huge internal adjustment that we don't often talk about.
We really don't. And often the thing driving that rapid change these days is something like semaglutide.
Yeah, you hear about it everywhere. And the
Mm.
perception is often that it's, a magic fix, a direct solution.
Right. But Dan Hollis, he really pushes back on that. He offers a much more nuanced view.
How does he see its role then?
Well, he says semaglutide doesn't fix you, it gives you space to fix yourself.
Okay, space. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he uses this great analogy. He calls it good lumber.
Good lumber.
Yeah, like it's the raw material. It makes building something possible, but only if you're actually ready to pick up the hammer and do the work. It provides the potential, not the finished house.
I like that. It gives you the opportunity, but you still have to build.
Precisely. He says semaglutide primarily quiets that signal of constant physical hunger. It makes the static go away, as Harry puts it.
Okay, so it turns down the volume on the food noise.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because when those relentless cravings finally stop, what's left can be startling.
Startling. How so?
Because it leads to his other really powerful quote, when the cravings stop, the truth begins.
When the cravings stop, the truth begins.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that. Because you'd think, okay, the food noise is gone, life gets easier, right?
Yeah.
Less struggle.
That's the logical assumption, yeah.
Yeah.
But what Hollis finds is that for many people, what emerges in that quiet isn't peace. It's often disorientation, sometimes even grief.
Grief. Why grief? What are they grieving?
Well, think about it. For so many people, food wasn't just about hunger. It was the plan. It was the rhythm. It was the escape hatch.
Ah, okay. So it served all these other purposes, coping, comfort.
Right, managing emotions, dealing with stress, boredom, celebration. It was woven into the fabric of their daily life and emotional regulation. So
Wow.
when that central pillar is suddenly quieter or gone, It leaves this huge internal void.
A void. That makes sense. And it leads to his question, doesn't it? What happens when your body stops screaming for food, but your soul still wants something to chew on?
Exactly. That's the core of the post-craving reality.
And that space, that void, it must feel incredibly strange, unfamiliar, confusing, deeply confusing. And Hollis emphasizes that this is a really critical but often completely overlooked stage of the whole transformation journey. It's where people can feel incredibly lost and alone.
Which is why just focusing on the medication or the diet isn't enough.
Not even close.
Yeah.
And that's where Hollis's framework really comes in, addressing that emptiness, that need for new internal structures.
So how does he suggest filling that void, navigating that confusion?
Well, a huge piece is community and support. He says it very bluntly. Most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
That's a powerful statement. So the antidote to failing isn't more willpower, it's connection, support.
Connection, support, and something he calls neurobiological scaffolding.
Neurobiological scaffolding. Okay, that sounds complex. What does he mean by that? It's not just like positive affirmations.
No, it's much more concrete than that. He's talking about building actual neurobiological replacement structures. Think rituals, rhythm, routines, things you actively do.
So habits and routines that actually change your brain.
Exactly. It's like building a new internal lattice structure. This scaffolding, he says, is what keeps people upright when the chemistry wobbles, when the medication effects fluctuate or old triggers pop up.
Ah, okay. So when the drug helps quiet the old ingrained pathways related to cravings.
Right. It leaves that space we talked about.
You need to intentionally build new pathways, new defaults for your brain.
You got it. These new routines, rituals, supportive connections, they aren't just nice extras. They become the new architecture. It's physically rewiring, creating stability where the old food-centric patterns used to be.
So support and these new structures, they aren't optional. They're essential for rebuilding your sense of, like, agency and finding new meaning.
Absolutely essential. For agency, for meaning, for just relearning momentum in life without food being the central axis. It's constructing a whole new way of operating, really, from the inside out.
Which leads beautifully into what feels like one of Dan's most profound points, the thing that really separates short-term change from long-term success.
Yeah, this one is key. He says, weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Okay, weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative. Let's break that down. Biology is the mechanics, the medication, the body's response.
Right, the relatively straightforward part in some ways. But the narrative part, that's the story you tell yourself about yourself, your identity, why you do what you do.
And this explains why people often regain weight. The biology changed, but the internal story.
The narrative never got rewritten. Exactly. They lose the pounds, Hollis says, but they never rewrite their story. They might change their eating habits temporarily, but the underlying identity, the old map, eventually pulls them back.
So let's bring Adrienne back in here. How did this play out for her? Working with Dan, they didn't just focus on maintaining the weight loss, did they?
No, not directly. He says they got to work on language.
On language, like words.
Yeah. On rewriting the names, she gave things internally. So, for example, shame became memory, just acknowledging the past without being defined by it. Control became curiosity. Instead of rigidly trying to control food or herself, shifting to being curious about her feelings, her needs.
That's a big shift.
Huge. And discipline became alignment. Not forcing herself, but choosing things that felt aligned with the person she wanted to become. She started to fill that new physical frame she had, not with rules and restrictions, but with permission.
Permission to be different, to live differently.
Permission to explore who this new version of herself was, what she needed, what she wanted, beyond just food.
And what was the result for Adrienne? Did the mirror suddenly look friendly?
Well, the mirror itself didn't change, obviously, but Hollis says the way she greeted it did. She stopped flinching. She could actually stand there longer, look at herself with maybe curiosity instead of judgment.
That's the real transformation, isn't it? The internal shift.
It is, and it ties into how Dan redefines the ultimate goal, the win condition. He says, this journey isn't about eating less, it's about living more.
Living more.
Meaning feeling alive enough to stop measuring everything by food. Finding fulfillment, engagement, meaning in other areas of life.
That's a completely different target than just a number on the scale. Okay, but what about, well, setbacks, slips? Everyone on this kind of journey worries about those. They usually feel like failure, bring up a lot of shame.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another area where Hollis really reframes things. He argues that Setbacks are not only predictable, they're actually normal, not shameful.
Normal.
He sees them as moments the body and brain try to recalibrate, little signals basically that you're human.
So when an old craving pops up,
Yeah.
or you fall back into an old habit,
It's not weakness resurfacing, it's memory. It's an old neural pathway kind of lighting up and asking, hey, do I still matter? Is it still relevant?
that takes the judgment out of it, doesn't it?
Completely. And he uses this wonderful metaphor. He says, weight loss, or any transformation really, isn't a straight lineup. It's more like a spiral staircase.
The spiral staircase.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're going in circles, but you're still climbing. You might revisit similar challenges, but hopefully from a slightly higher vantage point each time.
I love that. It allows for the ups and downs. And it connects to another key insight he has about relapse, right?
Yes. He says most people don't relapse into hunger, they relapse into confusion.
Ah, back to that disorientation, that lack of a map.
Exactly. When the old ways feel familiar and the new ways still feel uncertain or unsupported, confusion takes over. And that's often what leads back to the old patterns.
So instead of beating yourself up during a setback, what does Dan suggest?
He offers these really powerful, simple questions to ask yourself in that moment. Questions like, what am I feeling right now? What do I actually need? And maybe most importantly, who do I want to become?
So turning the setback into an inquiry, a moment of self-discovery almost.
Precisely. It shifts it from being a judgment, I failed, to being question. What's happening here? What's needed? It's data, not disaster.
So if you're listening and you feel like you're in a setback, the message is you're not necessarily losing. You might actually be learning something crucial.
Exactly. It could be a signpost pointing towards where you need more support or a clearer narrative.
This whole conversation, digging into Dan Hollis's work, it's been really illuminating. It shifts the focus so much. We've talked about identity lag, that disconnect when your body changes faster than your story.
Right, and how that can feel like a disappearance, leading to confusion, and how semaglutide isn't really fixed, but more like it creates this crucial space by quieting the food noise.
A space where the real work can begin, but only if you have the right support. Which led us to the idea of neurobiological scaffolding.
Yeah, building those new internal structures, those new habits and routines, ideally within a supportive community. Because people often fail from isolation, not from the medication failing.
And then that huge distinction. Weight loss is biology, but staying there is narrative. You have to rewrite the internal story.
You do, like Adrienne did, changing the language from shame and control to memory and curiosity, redefining the win.
It really hammers home that this journey, whatever form it takes, is so much more than weight or food. As Dan Hollis puts it, it's fundamentally about learning how to belong to yourself again.
Such a beautiful way to frame it, belonging to yourself.
And his closing thought is really something to sit with. The old hunger is gone, but something more honest is arriving. Let it in. Let it take its time. You're not behind. You're just beginning.
That gives you permission to be patient with the process, doesn't it?
It really does. So maybe the question for you listening is, in that quieter space, that quiet window that might be opening up, what new, more honest truths might be arriving for you?